And you guys thought Genshin Impact was a Breath of the Wild clone. All jokes aside, Immortals Fenyx Rising obviously takes heavy inspiration from Breath of the Wild, but you could also say that Breath of the Wild took quite a bit of inspiration from the Ubisoft open world formula, which had more or less become the industry staple. Breath of the Wild stood out because it brought new things to the table that changed how we, as players, approached an open world. Finally giving us true freedom to explore was simply better than the faux freedom we were given in most open world games before, so it really is no surprise that games like Genshin Impact and now Immortals Fenyx Rising are taking inspiration from this new formula. This is very unlikely to be the last open world game that has similarities to Breath of the Wild, and I think it'd be very disingenuous to call any of these games, past, present or future, clones. Having proper freedom and rewarding exploration in an open world is now simply the expectation. What's important is what else these games bring to the table to make their experience unique. So let's take a look at what Immortals Fenyx Rising brings to that table. Last Friday, I was invited by Ubisoft ANZ to play about 4 hours of Immortals Fenyx Rising. This was first shown off under the working title Gods and Monsters, and it's a good thing they came up with a better name than that. I played right from the very beginning of the game and I was free to play it any way I wanted, though I was encouraged to follow the main story until the prologue was over, at which point the world properly opens up. The first hour and a half to 2 hours consists of the prologue, which acts as an extended tutorial and an introduction to the story. It's a well-paced section that slowly gives you access to all the mechanics and tools you need to explore the rest of the game. I don't want to keep referring to Breath of the Wild in this video, but this first section is essentially Immortals' version of the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild. Immortals differentiates itself right from the beginning though. This is a much more heavily story-driven experience than Breath of the Wild is. And that segues us nicely into the story and themes of the game. Immortals is a narrative steeped in Greek mythology that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's actually pretty funny. The lighthearted tone gets set pretty early on. I first started realizing what I was getting into when I heard Zeus speak for the first time. You expect Zeus to have a voice and demeanor that's regal and commanding, but the first thing I thought of when I heard it was when Loki was disguised as Odin in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh shit.
My son Thor has returned.
Oh no, not one of your stories. How long is this going to...
The writing is kind of like a fourth wall ancient Greece. There's a lot of jokes and references you might not get if you aren't familiar with Greek mythology, and I'm not all that familiar myself, but I still noticed a lot of little things, like when you have to fight the spirit of Achilles, who is hopping around on one foot. The story follows Phoenix, a customizable main character you control, who is a mere mortal unwittingly set forth on an epic quest to restore the gods and goddesses to their former glory in order to defeat Typhon and bring peace to the world. Your journey is regularly narrated by Zeus and Prometheus, who are each trying to tell their own version of your story. It's pretty great writing, to be honest, and I'm not sure I can explain it well enough, so just watch this clip.
As Phoenix traveled through the underworld, her thoughts turned toward her mother and father. Were they safe in Argos? Had they too been transformed? Phoenix couldn't help
A huge monster appears.
The large open world map is split into regions which take the form of unique domains based on a particular Greek god. For this preview session, I was only given access to the starting area, which is based on Apollo, I can't quite remember, as well as the lush pastures of Aphrodite. I believe though that the full game will allow you to move freely between all the regions after you've finished the prologue section. None of them will be locked off like it was in my preview session, and you'll have the freedom to tackle quests and objectives how you want. In terms of the gameplay and world structure, you will have to climb a statue in each region to reveal sections of the map. There are collectibles, enemies, chests and puzzles littered throughout, and you'll also find shrines. And by shrines, I mean like actual Breath of the Wild shrines. For combat and puzzle solving, you have quite a lot at your disposal. There are 3 weapon slots which fill the roles of quick attack, heavy attack, and ranged. You can make use of all of them, or you can level up skills that focus on a particular weapon. I found myself rarely using the slower heavy weapon and just stuck with the bow and sword. You also have gauntlets, which allow you to push, lift, and throw heavy things, as well as pull certain objects to you, kinda like a magnet. And of course, the obligatory gliding mechanic. Ingredients and materials scattered throughout the world allow you to craft potions, and you can tame a number of wild animals to ride as mounts. There's not a lot more I can say other than it's fun. 4 hours is quite a long session for one of these preview events, but I never got bored or wanted to stop playing. I kept on playing right to the end while I was being asked questions about my thoughts. I just really wanted to finish the shrine I was in. I was initially unsure about the art style, mostly in regards to the characters, but it did grow on me to the point where I didn't really notice it while playing. Personally, I'm glad that Breath of the Wild appears to have changed the open world formula throughout the industry. Ubisoft has been pumping out open world games like there's no tomorrow this whole generation, but there's so little to differentiate them between one another. The industry as a whole fell into complacency with the structure and design, which was honestly starting to make open world games feel very bland and uninteresting. Immortals Fenyx Rising is actually on my radar. It feels fresh and new next to Ubisoft's lineup. Hell, next to most of the AAA lineup in general. And while it also does quite often feel like Breath of the Wild, I think it does more than enough to differentiate itself. The writing is great, the humor is on point, and the world is very pretty and fun to explore. What's not to like? The game will be out on the 3rd of December for the Xbox Series X, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, PC via the Epic Games Store and Uplay, and Google Stadia LOL. Keep an eye out closer to launch for my full review of the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks for the liking, subscribing, and the sharing!